I see it now.
Okay.
I can't. My DNA, Jack, you know that by now.
No, I didn't. I didn't. I was gonna send it to him with the notes.
Yeah.
But no, let's put
Oh, okay.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I thought
Seriously,
that was,
Jack, it's a horror show.
I was
There's a lot of young men that now they bring in friends who want them to.
Yeah, no, no.
I was gonna,
I saw
And then you know
that.
what I said is on July 4th.
I saw all the kids at people's houses, and I didn't realize, I had people that were coming,
we're
that were
just
calling
getting
me,
back into our
like the
house.
Baileys, Crown Home, Billy Tong,
So,
all those people saying, hey,
yeah, that's no excuse.
we're coming down, and the roads are like,
But,
somebody even called about the pizza delivery, I started laughing.
Well,
We got
and
12
then
cars
I saw
coming.
that the agencies that are gonna be
It's
there
just, it's
are
gotten
promoting it on their own social
we
media.
have stuff going on Friday nights.
So,
And it's just a drum fest, it's,
For us, it was the most uneventful July 4th, and then rain coming, got everybody off the road.
17:31.
Okay, I'd like to call the July meeting of the Madison Board of Police Commissioners to order. Please stand. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Delighted to have our Board of Selectmen liaison. Mr. Goldberg here. And we all got, and anyway, welcome. First order of business, is there a motion to approve our June minutes as written?
Motion for the minutes to be accepted as written, would you got it?
Any discussions, edits, comments? Got it? Okay, accept them. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as written, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Public comments, we continue to be undiscovered by many members of the public in this meeting, but no public comments so far. So Chief's report.
All right, good evening, everybody. Hope you had a great holiday. Let's start with the financials. You folks should have received your packet. This is the last month of fiscal year 23-24. July 1st, we started 24-25. My understanding is that we're somewhere between $50,000 and $64,000 returned. Now, bear in mind, we did have special appropriations during the year to cover some of the labor. So, as far as with the animal control, they're saying that I think they were 2% under, and communication also finished approximately 2% under. Questions, comments, observations?
So if we can just look at the summary, this page here that has the summary of the line accounts. So if we look, and this essentially says that Madison Police Department, exclusive of the animal control, has an expense budget of $4 million. That's
Not including HR, yes.
not including HR and, right, not including some of the medical, benefits and other pension expenses. So what we're saying to the citizens in Madison, and we also have some vacancies, to run the police department in this community at kind of a minimal level. It's a $4 million expense.
Almost five.
Almost five. Well, $4 million here if you add it on. And you know, that's, if you look at, Al, what's the overall town budget?
How embarrassing.
You know, what is it?
The town budget is, I believe, in the 30s.
Right, yeah.
The overall budget is approaching 100 million.
Yeah, okay, so ballpark. But, you know, when we look at what we're trying to do in the matter of public safety, traffic control in response to, you know, Madison citizens' expectations, we're saying it's, you know, 4 million plus benefits, so maybe it might be closer to 4.5 million, something like that. And, you know, that's a number to keep in perspective, including, you know, some of the requests that we had that, and I'm not minimizing anything, but some of the requests that we've had in the, whether it's for cameras or something else in the area of $30,000 to $40,000 seem pretty de minimis, and with an overall budget of, you know, $4.5 million. And anyway, it's, you know, as I looked at it, it's just, you know, trying to have some order of magnitude of, this is what your safety and security costs. The other thing, you did know, Chief, that from our May budget, we flipped and we moved some of the wages where we were under budget into the overtime budget, so.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, so that looks.
We right-sized the, we unencumbered what they had for the original allocated staff.
Yeah.
They put that into the overtime line to mitigate that. They added, I think, additional, also they had to backfill the Howard construction line, you might recall. That
Yeah.
originally starts about 35, and then we generally bring in close to 100.
Mhm.
And so we just avoid on this side of it, put it back prior to audit.
Yeah, there's another way of looking at that number too, Ed. If you look at 4.5 million out of the total town budget, it's not an insignificant number, but if you look at the balance of, say, $95 million for other, we're spending a very reasonable amount of money for the protection and well-being of the town. And as, you know, to highlight what Ed said, some of our requests that come in for a very minimal amount of money get a little poo-poo. So let's not lose sight of the fact that we're $95 million below the rest of the town with our operation.
Right. Well, and this is not to in any way beat our chest, but just to acknowledge it. You've got a, you know, exclusive of the benefits that we keep saying, 75% of your budget costs are human resource costs. You know, $3 million for wages, salary, training, overtime. 75% of your budget is spent on human capital, and it just emphasizes the importance of recruiting and retention. So you damn well better get it straight, you know, because that's where your money is going. And if you have a problem where most of your money is going, you have a problem. And so it just, you know, reinforces, I think, you know, and we've all, I know I'm waving the flag here a bit, but, you know.
As you should.
Well, but when we sit in these interviews, I mean, these are, or promotions, or look at assignments. These are, you know, critical decisions that you and your leadership team are making, and certainly we're participating and endorsing it. But anyway, it just, you know, the fiscal year end is an appropriate time to take a step back and say, okay, you know, the budget is complete. Well, you know, 23, 24 is dead. Let's start on, you know, 24, 25, and that's what we're going to live with over the next 12 months. So anyway, this is a, with the adjustments made, Chief, this is a pretty good place to end up, you know, with you and your management staff to put this, you know, together. There were no, you know, extraordinary surprises, which is always good. You know, Stacy Novus does not need any surprises. Right.
If I may, I just have a little more information to go with the budget, but I mean, let's face it, we're the guardians of the town, and approximately 4% of the budget. Most other towns are somewhere between 6 and 10, so we've done well. On that note,
Can I ask you a quick question before we move on?
Yes.
Just to make sure I'm following. If you, the original appropriation was the 3.9, and then throughout the year you said there were additional appropriations that get you to the 4,111, but then you ended up spending 4,006. Is that pretty much how to read the,
Right, I mean,
That's what I
it'll
thought,
be a
okay.
little bit more than this because there's still things coming
that
in.
haven't come through?
That haven't
So that was
come
my
through.
question. So you had said that you give back like 40 grand to the town.
based on what, if they made appropriations, and that's what that reflects, but
We
I also
haven't paid.
gave back the 62. But it goes to audit generally around the end of August, in the middle of September.
And that's when it's
I'll know
final
the true
closeout.
number.
Got it.
If
So
I-
right now you're
if I
running
had
at
bet on it-
104, but you know there's stuff coming in.
Yes.
So that's where you're thinking the 40, and the 40 actually literally just goes back to the town budget. So when you say give
Post
back.
audit, we probably gave back $9,000.
Will we,
Thank you.
to Amy's point, will we see that final, everything settled, closed number? I mean, you mentioned how there are some things that are still
Yeah.
flowing through, so,
It's in the annual report.
okay, it'll be in that. Well, we will.
But once we know that it's final, we'll have another report.
We can get it from Stacy.
Yeah, because the August report will just have the first month.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And that, a lot of that's front loaded, like the way we buy
Oh, yeah.
supplies.
Yeah. But if we can do that, I mean, I don't think there'll be any surprises, but to Amy's point.
I can give you
this-
that at
this
the
is
August meeting.
Okay, that'd be great.
And does every department get audited in, you said August,
I'm
September?
sorry?
Does every department in town get audited?
The town's required to produce an audit.
Okay, oh, it's the town audit,
It's the
gotcha,
town
not
audit,
just,
which
okay,
is all, it's all,
Thank you.
all aspects of the town.
gotcha.
Okay, so, moving on from that, well, actually, next week I'm gonna sit down with Stacy and we're gonna talk about the capital improvement line, CIP, which is due generally the end of every July. And that's any projects that we deem will be working on. In regards to the, police department, one of the CIP projects that we have to face is that we have to update, and it's not just police, it's fire, ambulance, all things OEMS, and that's the CAD system. That's where you dial 911 and it brings up on our board, and the information we have from your domicile is in there, the information. The problem is we haven't updated that, I guess, since they installed it in 24 years ago. So now they'll have, like, they'll go to a house that maybe was in front of a road that's now a development, especially off of Horse Pond, and realize there's 6, 8 houses in there. Or, better yet, the apartments they're building off Cottage Road, which are going to have more than 40 units. So there were 2 houses at one time. So it's very important for us to do that. That's requiring a lot of labor. It's requiring, we do essentially, the company that we're using is Geo, which is used in most of the communities in the state of Connecticut. NextGen is a dominant CAD system for law enforcement in the state. It also handles the state police and motor vehicle, which is the most important. We were one of the earlier subscribers. Before I ever arrived here, they had. The language, their language does not talk to the geo files that we have, like for your Visio, you know, your appraisal. Because if it did, it'd be just move it over. So that's the start of this. Where I'm going with this is that it's probably going to be in somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 to 100,000 when they're done. So that's going to go on a capital improvement line over the next 2 years. This involves all the services, and probably a lot of the heat, I mean, in a good way, has come from the fire services, because they're going to these calls and they're realizing, hey, we got to update this. So that's what we've been working on for the last year and a half. It's taken a long time. NextGen, the company, we met with them on several occasions. The holdup for them is that when they came out with this second chance with judicial, the governor wanted a second chance. They were the ones handling the computers for judicial department. So they're trying to catch up with the Department of Corrections and the Judicial Department and have a more accurate reading as the people they're releasing. So, not that they put us on the back burner, they're still working on it, but it's taking time. But that's one of the capital improvements we have to do. The second one has to do with essentially the 5G update, the phone system, the backup to the phone system, and our nutmeg that comes into the building, the PSDN line from the state of Connecticut. Right now, Frontier, which was part of AT&T, is the phone lines for 911 in the state of Connecticut. And they're still copper dominant with a backup of a PSDN. Every time it rains heavy, they fail. And I think some of you have experienced trying to call us when they weren't answering the phones. So what works very well with the Facebook site is we get that out there right away now. It used to be a problem in the past, not anymore. So what we've done is we went to the 3 vendors and we started doing our own test. So what did we learn? We learned that we were overpaying for a bunch of lines that they haven't used in years. We've learned that there are some lines that don't even work that we're paying for. And this involves Comcast, AT&T, Verizon, and of course Frontier. This was a pet project I had for Jeremy before he went off to the FBI Academy, and it was good training because right now he's sweating it up. So after a few meetings, and one of the it was kind of funny. The audit, I'm sitting there and I get a phone call, and they're saying, "Hi, Chief Nolan." I'm like, "No, Chief Nolan. This is Chief Trump." So she hangs up. Then she calls back. She asks for Chief Jacobson. I said, "Chief Jacobson." And then the third time she had me, I said, "Tell me what you're doing." She goes, "I'm eliminating on the phone lines. They had different lines." And what they did was when somebody else came in, they just added another line internally. It still went back to the connect. It still went to the whatever the extension was, but the physical phone line would handle the voicemail and everything. They created new ones instead of just switching them over or eliminating. That's through the years. So what's the bottom line? Bottom line is we're saving $590 a month. We sat down and after a meeting with Art across the way, Art Sickle, Stephen, we decided that we'd like to go with T-Mobile. Because T-Mobile, and I always thought T-Mobile was like the lesser, and I got corrected on that very quickly. They're on the tower across the way there. So on this campus alone, they're, I want to say 30% more that we're receiving in a signal for this campus alone, which is important for the phone lines because that's one of the backups. The backups we're seeking is a landline, from there a internet, from there a PSDN line, and of course then we have good old Frontier. So that gives us 4, I'm not going to say it's never going to happen, maybe catastrophically, we may lose the phones, but that's a good start. The second part of this is moving all the cruisers and the police vehicles that have the MDT. It's Wi-Fi. And that runs from cameras to the MDT, which is where we dispatch, automated dispatch, and we get the CAT comments that I just spoke about previously. That goes to 5G. On top of that, the camera system established will be 5G. That is being established because it's a very strong signal in the town. In addition to that, right now, as an example, when the cars come in, you finish your shift, the cars download here. It takes anywhere from 2 to 20 minutes. All the video from the body cam, all the video from the car cam. With the 5G network with T-Mobile, they're downloading continuously anywhere in town. So we looked at what AT&T did, we looked at what Verizon was doing, and we really were impressed what T-Mobile was doing. We also went and looked at some of the PDs, police departments in towns that they've been working with. So we're convinced it's going to work. It saves us money. The only expense that I need that's going to go into would be CIP is that I have to change the modems we have on the cars that are 4G to 5G. And you're talking approximately $600 to $800 or whatever the labor is to put that in each car. That's that big hockey puck you see on the top of the car. It handles a lot of data. Originally I was going to put that on CIP, and they've asked me to put it in the CNR The
What's the amount?
capital non-recurring, you might recall when we were asking for signs and other equipment, they said they were gonna create a fund of approximately $100,000. It may be a little bit less, but that's what it is, it's a CNR non-recurring. That's the suggestion. Originally, I earmarked speed signs, additional, and crosswalks. So I backed out some of the speed signs, and that's where I'm gonna, so there is it an impact? It's obviously the money's been budgeted, and that's where it'll come from. We did use some of that money recently for some equipment that we're putting into communications. Like we're redoing all the Zybec furniture, and it's not the furniture, but it's inside that furniture has all, the computers are built within the furniture. There's wires, there's outlets, some aren't working now, then when there's the actual monitors that we have, so those are all scheduled to be replaced also. So that money's all coming out of that non-recurring fund. So I'm gonna meet with Stacy next week to establish how she wants me to put this before the CIP committee, which I'll sit with, I think, in a couple of weeks, so maybe about a month. So that was the purpose of having that fund, establishing it. So that was Stacy's idea, and I would talk to Peggy. She wants to talk a little bit more on this, but that's where we're going with that. On the other side of this is building. So the building, Peter Anderson is the new, he took Bill McMahon's spot, and he's doing assessments of different buildings, and he did an assessment of our building. And he wants to do a lot of maintenance to this building. He'd like to do it before they lose it, so to speak. So they're starting with the back of the building. If you were to walk out there, you'll see that we've emptied out the back garage. That was a Doug Harkins Jack Drum project with the biggest dumpster you could see in our t-shirts when we got it done. I heard for a few days. The second part of that is they're going to be power washing the buildings, painting the ceilings, putting in new lighting, and resurfacing the floors. They're gonna do the back garage, they're gonna do the sally port, they're gonna go into the lockup eventually. Another part of that is there is money to, and they're going to power wash the whole building. Now, remember, the building is 20-something years old. If you were to walk around and see all the holes from, what do you call hornets, and all this other stuff, and it's got a stucco, like a skin on it. So the power washing is gonna be interesting how it affects that. So there may be other repairs that they have to do. They know of some. So that's part of it. Then he wants to paint, redo all the trim here on the outside. Where that goes next is to the parking lot. Now, I know that there's a project through on CM DeBurra side, Public Works, to repave this whole parking lot. And I'm sure they had to wait for the construction to finish and other things. And that also is inclusive of repainting the lines, replacing the faded signs. And my understanding is they're going to, when I first came here, I always was admired is that, I drove here and I said, God, it's got better flowers than my home around this building. And apparently they're gonna reestablish that. And he saw some neglect, he said it's a good building, let's not lose it. So that's gonna be on his CIP side. All right. But I just wanna tell you that, so when you see this happening, that's where it's coming from. So I'll take a breath here. Any questions, comments?
What's the timing of all this?
Well, they're starting painting tomorrow. They're all, if you're to walk in the back, if you look in the back, you see everything's under the salad port here.
Okay.
And the flooring's being done, I think, on the 17th. Power washing's following. I think Madison Earth Care is here on Monday. For outside. The signs I'm gonna have them done. I'm not gonna paint the lines because I know Sam's gonna be doing, they're gonna be paving, wouldn't make any sense.
So they're gonna be paving the parking area, like in front of the?
My understanding, they're gonna pave the whole parking lot because it's breaking up. And they waited till the construction was done, heavy equipment, things like that.
So, and that timing is this summer sometime?
It's in this fiscal year,
Yeah,
so,
okay.
you know, and actually, some of it is money that wasn't spent from last year. So this is the way it's being told to me now. If there's something that happens, maybe Board of Selectmen changes something, or Board of Finance, or, it is what it is.
Question, you said the upgrade from 4G to 5G for the cars is gonna come out of the CNR budget. What about the
If they
upgrade?
approve it. If they don't
Right.
approve it, I'm gonna have to wait until, as I replace the cars, replace the,
Yeah, I understand that. What about the building? You didn't say, like, if you're, do you get is there approval to upgrade the building from 4G to 5G?
The
Or does that
building
already
is,
happen?
it's part of it, it's part of my budget for communications, but then, not the
So that wouldn't
communication,
come
not
out
that
of
communication, but
CNR.
it's within my, I have a, if you look at our budget, you'll see
Yep.
there's a computer line, there's a technology line, that's
Okay.
where it comes from.
Okay, so you're saying you'd upgrade the building regardless, because that's coming out of the police budget?
Yeah, it's just new, it's these newer antennas.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool, thank
Yeah,
you.
that's all part of the other thing I couldn't give you is the heavy-duty modems.
Mhm.
And in the past, they had given us modems, but the 5G modems are not, it's like $700, they didn't want to give them.
Yeah, okay.
We tried.
Al, how receptive do you think they'll be across the street, just following up on the chief's remark about the modems, getting the money for that?
I would be optimistic. That's about the best answer I can give you.
Could you think of any reason, based on public safety and all the things that are going on, and the incidents with cars and vehicles, is there any reason that you could think of, perhaps, that they would say no?
Well, I
Just-
have,
I'm piggybacking
I
on the
have
4%.
11 other colleagues that have to agree to it, and sometimes they're very imaginative. But it sounds very straightforward to me, Tom, and
Could you bring anybody who's reticent to one of our meetings?
well,
And just ask them to come and we could talk to them about it?
yeah, the CIP process, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but through the chief, the advocacy for these items takes place, and the CIP committee is composed of members of the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance, and they listen to all of the department's needs and then make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. An item like this usually is granted without a whole lot of conversation. That's why I would be optimistic. Yeah.
And on that, Chief, you said switching over to T-Mobile, you're saving almost $6 a month,
Right,
right?
and getting much better, like, not only are we saving money, we're getting much better service.
And when does the switch over to T-Mobile, or is that already started?
You know, we're in the process right now. I can only control what we could control. I work for this board, I have a budget that's stated, I can only spend what I have in that budget. Anything over and above, and if anything involves communication, Board of Selectmen. If I have to go in addition to the budget, I'm sure I'm gonna get questioned on CIP, but I think there's gonna be enough people in the room that are very pro that we get this done. That, you know, there's a lot going on in town, I understand there's a lot of expenses that will be coming down the road, but I still have to run the police department, we just talked 4% of, so.
So would it be correct to say if we were passionate about this, we should come to the CIP meeting? That would be the good
Usually the chief will
time.
represents the commission.
Got it.
And, Amy, if it needs to escalate beyond that, then yes,
Then-
that's a
then-
good suggestion. I'd
Could
say
he
the
use the
likelihood.
bodyguard at the meeting?
They're not, listen, they're dealing with their fiduciary responsibility is they're trying to look around the corner where we're going with these expenses. I understand that, and I've always done the same thing, that if it's a wish list, I'll tell you. If it's predicated on need, I'll also tell you that, and that's the reason I'm sitting in front of you. So this is where what I need to go, particularly when that upgrade to next gen, and it's very important, you know, and we have to have the backups, so. Okay, any other questions? All right, before we go to, activity, the quarter, I have an anonymous letter, can I just read this?
Oh,
It's in your, no, I want to address Mr. Anonymous's letter, and I want to go to the activity. Who may concern, robberies in Madison are becoming nightly. We're getting updates on Ring doorbell daily of thieves breaking into cars and homes. Police cars should not be sitting idle in a parking lot waiting for speeders all day and night. They should be actively patrolling neighborhoods all night, especially neighborhoods around exit 61 and 60 where the robberies are happening. It should not be up to the community to have organizations formed to keep patrols when we have an active police force who are constantly in parking lots parked. Our taxes are going towards the police in order to protect our town. Please be more diligent and active and keep us safe. Many concerned Madison citizens. Thank you. I'll do the activity. If you look, in particular, from April, May, June of 23, and now look at April, May, June of 24. You know where I was going, didn't you, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, go ahead.
It's okay. So, our activity is alarms, 361. We're never short of alarms. That involves 2 police officers responding. Hopefully you have a key holder, and that ties them up for about a half hour on some occasions. So that's 2 officers a half hour each. That's an hour with the labor. Suspicious vehicles, 39. Persons, 24. That's people calls in, and I encourage that. There's a car I don't recognize next door on my neighbor's driveway, or there's somebody walking about. That's what we're here for. Call us, please. In custody arrests, well, criminal investigations, we had 274. We had in custody arrests, 49. I believe there were 16 in the involuntary committals, but I'll check that. The animal, in custody arrests, 49. Animal nuisance complaints, 83, warmer weather. Juvenile, missing adult, there were no juvenile issues. Missing adults over 16, 1, and was returned safely home. Juvenile complaints, 14, not missing, but these are actual complaints. Some stem from the end of school. We had 81 fingerprint requests, 73 first responding to calls to 911 for police with the oxygen and defib, 219 assist a person, 50 assist to other agencies. Motor vehicle accidents, 94, abating 7. With injuries were 28, property damage 38, private property 11, and car versus animal 10. Motor vehicle arrests 170, speed enforcement 844, DWI arrests 4, written warnings 1270, verbal warnings 18. Subtotal, well, total calls for service 3,385. Let's go back to the next page. That's 2023, and we're understaffed. Let me see, we still have the alarms, we still answered similar in the vehicles, very similar in criminal investigations, in custody arrests. If you go down through that, what I want to get to is police one-on-one contact with vehicles. And you gotta remember, when we're trying to be aggressively looking for kids that were out here going through our neighborhoods stealing cars, we generally have to stop cars. So if you look in 2023 for April, May, June, you had approximately 69 and 23 motor vehicle arrests. You had 170 this year. If you look at speed enforcement, you had 293 last year, and this year you had 844. DW arrests, you had 7 last year, you had 4 this year. Maybe it's our uptick of enforcement. Written warnings, 1,270 versus 395. Police officers, we got some more staff back. They're doing their jobs. They're out there vigilant. They're looking for people in cars. They're looking for people, not necessarily I think it's indicative of the fact that we give the verbal warnings we do, particularly the citizens of this town, is that we're very, very cognizant of our public image and our positive public relations. By monitoring traffic is how we find people that may be stealing cars, or the robberies, as somebody said. Questions?
Yeah, I'm glad you're focused on this, because I think this is a key part and probably the flip side in importance to the financial budget. And, you know, I'm stating the obvious, I know, but if you look at total calls for service, they doubled in 24 months. They doubled from 1649 to 338. If you look at the written warnings, they tripled from same period a year ago. And so, you know, this is, you know, I think really representative of, you know, the impact obviously of the new officers coming on stream and getting through the training, their training, And one of the things, Chief, maybe just ask you to reflect on, is when you put this, and this is, I appreciate 1 quarter, but one of the things you might give some thought to, and maybe use the police commission as the off-Broadway audience, is to say, I'm gonna put together a public safety annual report that talks about, for a fiscal year, the total calls for service. And, yeah, I know it's included in the annual report, but that gets really delayed for a number of months. But put together a public safety annual report and consider presenting it, certainly at the invitation and coordination to the Board of Selectmen, and give them a sense of, this is what your $4 million investment is returning in the area of safety management, in the area of accident prevention. You know, if you take this number, which is a quarter, and say, okay, you know, maybe it's higher in the, or lower, but April is not the summer months here. But if you took this number, you know, multiply it by 4, you got $12,000 to $13,000, 12 to 13,000 annual reports, calls for service, and run those numbers through in terms of, this is the impact that this relatively small 32-man police department is having on this community, which is geographically pretty dispersed, but it also is reflecting, it encompasses, you know, the things that sometimes don't resonate, like the 105 cars coming off of exit 62, you know, heading to Hammonasset State Park, you know, at 10 o'clock every Saturday morning on every weekend. So anyway, you give some thought, because I think when you put these together on an annual basis, they lose, to me, it's more impactful than saying, oh, okay, yeah, we gave, you know, about 1,300 written warnings. Well, last year, the same period, we gave about 400, so you tripled the number of written warnings, which means you affected, you know, 3 times as many people, and absolutely are gonna get 95% of them to slow down when they come through. And it just, I think, is very helpful, and, you know, we're getting into, as we found with the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, they're data driven. What are the numbers? What are the other towns doing? What is, and this is, you know, something that gives you a way to reflect the caliber of officers had, the dedication, the fact that they're pulling a car over that's questionable and going. Anyway, I think it's very helpful, you know, to look at it and say, how do we continue to educate the public, including the critical audiences of the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance? Those are critical audiences. They've got pressures from other departments, and, you know, when we make a request, I think if we can give them some subliminal knowledge about, we're just not doing this to keep up with the Joneses. We're doing this because it absolutely makes sense and impacts the people in Madison.
I don't think the public understands what happens behind the house. You know, they don't, I mean, today we filed for IMRP up at UConn Public Policy. By law now, we have to report the usage of our body cams and our car cams, and the breakdown, in what vehicles, times 169 communities, that's what they're doing. That's part of the House Bill 6004, accountability. I don't think they understand that part. I don't think they understand when they see the cops sitting down by the firehouse, what are they doing? They're hanging out. Well, actually, no. What they're doing is to watch people make the U-turn and then come back, and they pull them over. You know, because people, right from the library, you know, it says no U-turn. What do people do? They make a U-turn. Oh, well, I could do that, you know. Or they make right turns on red when the crosswalk's in. So, and we tend to educate people, you can't take a right-hand turn on red when the crosswalk is operational, I mean, people are in the street. So that's what that officer's doing there. So if you see the officer there, that's what he's doing. Now, he may be working on a report, depends on the time of day. But there's a lot that we have to do behind the house to make the front of the house operational. And I think a lot of people, it gets lost on that. Our budget is less than most, our staffing is less than most, our administration is less than most. And we have great people that work for this town. You know, I say that over and over, so I can understand why some people from their balcony looking down may see it a certain way. One of the greatest things that worked for me is when we have the senior academies, which we generally did, we had to slack off a little during COVID. But we have the senior academies that are a great way to educate people what's going on. And of course, you'll see all the statistics on the Facebook site coming up. So there'll be a lot out there, we're gonna use that. So
Al, you were gonna make a comment?
Well, I think the chief just made the point. I wanted to supplement by saying I think we need to educate the public as to how they should understand when they see an officer on the side of the road or in a parking lot. Let's help explain what that officer is doing. And I think the chief just gave some great examples, but I think speaking directly to this anonymous letter writer,
that's part of the deal.
it would be helpful to understand that the officers at work doing the following kinds of things. And the chief just listed a few of them, but I think we should emphasize that.
But I
And
would
one other
ask,
thing in
Beyond
relation-
this commission meeting.
In relation to this letter versus all the letters we've been receiving about some of the robberies and the incidents south of the post road for the last 3 to 5 years, every single one of those letters that have come to the chief, the department, the commissioners, they have been signed by a resident trying to validate an incident, and that's a tool for the department to use either from the time or the location or the use of resources. But when you get a letter to whom it may concern, signed by many concerned, probably the only thing that's correct on this letter is the date on the top of it. And it doesn't help us. I'm not saying to people, the letter diminishes our responsibility to the town. But if you're out there, and you're gonna hear this on the camera now, please help us, help the police department, give us details, give us specifics, or identify yourself so that a member of the department or the commission, if necessary, can contact you and explain a little bit more about what we're doing.
Right.
An anonymous letter is just that. It leaves you no place to go.
If you look at the other letter, the gentleman with the crosswalk by the golf course.
Right.
Okay, so I received that, that was closed out by about 11 a.m. that morning. There was a phone call to him, there was a phone call from me to the country club. Explain to them, listen, you gotta get people to stop there, put a sign up there, do what you want, they don't have the right of way to just shoot across from the cart path in the intersection. Done. You give me your name and a phone number, I will get a hold of you right away. That's my style, it's been the day I walked in this building.
that's what I was just about to say, is if anyone has concerns, call and report it, because that's why you're here. I live at the end of Neck Road, anytime we have a problem, the police department is responsive, and in the summer, we do get a lot more people and we have to worry about our cars. So we have also seen lots of drive-bys now. So they have it at various different times in the day. So it's helpful, and we also see sitting by the side of the road because people speed on Neck Road and there's a lot of walkers, but we also see a lot of patrolling. So if anybody has an issue, call, because that's the best way to get things taken care of.
Well, we've, you know, I think it's a good point. On the other hand, you know, we always seem to have a spike in concerns regarding speeders, particularly on the shoreline areas, you know, Middle Beach Road, I mean, they're always there. And one of the things, you know, all of us have at different times looked at some crazy driver and gave it the old, where's the police when you need them, you know? And I think these statistics are certainly emphasizing the fact that, you know, this department is significantly expanding their presence, their engagement
with the community, both on the positive side, and if you say stopping the speeder, it's maybe a negative experience for the speeder, but we are, they are definitely expanding their presence and their engagement with the community. So and we're certainly never going to eliminate the unhappy camper either has some event, but, I think what's gonna carry the day is, I think, the overwhelming positive impact that most people report, and most people don't report. I mean, the positive impact, they just appreciate it. So we've got a number of positive letters. So, I think there's a reason we share the correspondence, and Chief, I know certainly the principle has been, stop and talk to people. Somebody flags you down, roll the window down and talk to them. That's the kind of recruitment and focus that we have. But anyway, this is a helpful report, I think. Okay.
Let's see, where did we leave off? Well, the training report, right? Well, training
Yes,
report.
training.
Okay. 242 hours for the month of June. That consisted of constitutional law, that's required, de-escalation required, A-ride, firearms, collect, recertification, the monthly training for the response team, and a total of 242 hours. A lot of also was the training for range, which I myself had to complete. So that was conducted during June, before it got too hot, although it was hot.
Okay.
See, traffic report, we somewhat covered that with it. Speaking to our monthly report, our activity report, but for the month of June, there were 34 reported accidents, 12 involving injuries. Again, a failure to drive established lane, following too closely, also cell phones. No driving under the influence, which is interesting for that time of the year, and as many contacts as we're making. There were 5 reported private property accidents, no fatals, and 6 assists to Connecticut State Police in motor vehicle accidents on I-95. Also, the regional SWAT team, the regional traffic team, was here on June 20th. They did a total of 87 motor vehicle stops. 30 infractions were issued, 5 misdemeanor summons, and 52 warnings, verbal warnings. Total for the first 5 deployments in 2024, and that's the other towns also, is almost 400 motor vehicle stops, 18 misdemeanor arrests, 162 infractions, 46 vehicles towed, 2 custodial arrests and warrants, and 2 failures to stop. They have an LPR license plate reader that goes with the team, so they set it up, and that's where they're getting the prom warrants. And this is the only way the state of Connecticut has to recover people that they have that are in the system. On that, if I may, just comment to the cameras. I think, Mr. Chairman, you want me to talk a little bit of the cameras? Well, this will, somewhat what we've been talking about earlier. The first 48 hours, the cameras were deployed. The ones on Route 1, east and west, and bottom of the connector, were over 48,000 license plates run. So, and when people want to know what we're dealing with on a daily basis, and I tell people we have 4,000 to 7,000 cars that in a 24-hour period will exit the highway. So that doesn't include Route 79. That camera's now operational, but they're still waiting on the state of Connecticut, the DOT daily hot sheet, which is integrated into that system. That's a lot of vehicles and a lot of people in this town. So
Would you say that number again? I'm not sure I understand.
approximately 48,000.
And the location was just the
Bottom of the
connector?
Hammonasset connector
And Route 1?
and Route 1. It's
Yeah.
east and west facing. Now, I know that approximately 13,000 people on average cross daily from Clinton into Madison and back. They commute to work, they go up to Connecticut, they get on and back.
And what
I
was
know-
the dates of this again?
I didn't hear
The
it.
dates of this 48,000?
Last weekend.
Just the
Weekend before the
weekend.
4th of July.
Weekend before the 4th of July, okay.
That's when it went operational,
So like over a 3-day period, 4-day period?
48 hours.
48. Thanks.
Ironically, I told Peggy, because she was meeting with, I guess there was an event with the Lieutenant Governor down in Hammonasset. So we have a lot of infrastructure the infrastructure of this town is challenged because of obviously the influx of summer people. And God bless them, it brings revenue to the town, it's a wonderful thing for the town. And of course, the beaches. Add to that, running our own critical infrastructure, answering our calls for service, whether it be North Madison or Route 80 equally, Route 79 North equally, a lot of traffic. Green Hill Road handles a lot of traffic. And we're putting a study on Green Hill Road down through Cops because of the schools that are building. So I think a lot of people don't realize, again, how much traffic there is in this town. And what we're doing with 4 or 5 police officers per shift on a good day. Now, what I did, my own little, I generally take the traffic close to the beginning of the parade, and then I follow it and close it out. And then I generally take the pandemonium down by the Beach Hotel during the fireworks. But I have to tell you that, and the cops all said the same thing, we've never had so many people thank us, acknowledge what we've been doing, and appreciate us. And that included people telling us, please stop by the house, I have food, this and that. So that's the barometer I used. And that was people coming up and, you know, a lot of people grabbing our hands saying thank you. It was nice. It also was nice when the rain came and a lot of people went home.
If I could comment on the South Central Regional information here, and I could really appreciate it because I see a lot of people, they complain, they feel like we're trapping them. But you see, there's a lot of, there's just a lot of dangerous things that are being stopped because of it. We're not doing this to trap anybody. It really is making a big difference of the people coming in and out of the town. So I can appreciate the data that's in there.
I said on racial profiling prohibition project, I said on police accountability, we don't. They just, Guilford just went through this. We went through it in 18, the analysis by IMRP at UConn. They said Guilford, like Madison, gets a lot of traffic and a lot of beach traffic in the summer, plus the regional traffic contributes once a month, a number. And there wasn't any discrimination. We weren't picking on people at some people's stops. Most of the stops we make are blind stops. We don't see the person that come over the rise doing 80, 90 at Hammonasset Connector, where we have no idea. We just see the incoming missile. We handle a lot of traffic, we do with not really great resources, and they do one heck of a job. We work with great people. The town should be proud.
Okay. Recruitment?
My understanding is that South Central Criminal Justice is doing ads on Facebook and Instagram. And of course it follows Madison, they're using some of Madison's personnel also. We did do a video recently for Chamber. Used Officer Welts and Officer Chance. They had them down by the beach and they gave a 2-minute discussion about virtue of the town of Madison. But we'll be using some of the officers in that campaign. Once again, we just need people to take the exam. It's still down across the state, even the state police. I talked to the commanders, they're having a hard time.
Ian mentioned something to me about there's a regional law enforcement recruiting symposium. What is it?
Yeah, like a recruitment fair.
In September. Are we gonna participate? Yeah.
Is that something?
September 13th.
I know the university has something similar. Is that what you're speaking to, the one at UNH?
Statewide Law Enforcement Recruitment Fair, Friday, September 13th. It's at the Police Academy in Meriden. Federal, state, and local law enforcement recruiters will be there.
South Central's there.
So there's individual PDs that are gonna be there, and they're promoting it on their own Facebook pages, so is that something that we would want our folks at? I don't know how it works, like if you've got a table or whatever, but, you know, we have some nice officers who've been doing this and some great materials, some, you know, marketing materials, should we be there, and should we be promoting it?
We do that at the testing sites.
Yep,
We do that also at the University of Haven, we do it at
Yep.
Post.
but should we be at
That's-
this?
That's an addition. We'd be up there competing with all the other departments.
I know, but it's yet another place to be, like, we're all down, and I think maybe that's why they're, you know, advertising this, you know. And yeah, we'd be in there amongst everybody else, but still, then we'd be there, like, with our faces.
And in Meriden, they
Front.
love to see
I
Madison.
talked to the New Haven chief last night, they're going to a 5-3.
Look, can we get to the, will we be participating in that? Do you know?
I can't guarantee that, I have to make sure I have the personnel to cover it, but I'll look into it, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, let me help you, I understand it. Recruiting is a critical issue. I mean, how could that not find its way to the, you know, the top of the list in terms of activity?
Well, when we recruit, we go to college campuses. Generally, we're talking to the student that's 6-8 months out, because usually our approval is 6-8 months out. So we've been very successful with that, and that's how we found most of the kids we have. So we may have one position in January, at least that's what they're telling me. I have 2 going to the academy in August, who's selected, and I have the one that's already here, of starting July 1st from New Haven. So I don't have any open positions, but if I could make that a priority, I have my head of it, who's down at Quantico until September 17th. But I assure you, we'll be there.
Okay, that's what we have, that's good. I mean, because if you have an open position coming on stream in January, a recruiting event in September seems to fit.
Good time.
Well, yeah, the problem we have when we stand with the other departments like that is that they're looking at what the benefits are, Chair 3 with the state of Connecticut, look at what the benefits are with a fully pensioned police department. You know, what we have is the 5-3, which is very attractive. So that's where people walk away.
I understand that, and I'll just, you know, I concur with Ed, that that's not a reason for us not to be there. Because it's also about optics, and I don't know who's coming through one of these fairs. You would know better than I would, but you just don't know who's gonna be there. And you also don't know that somebody's not gonna quit tomorrow. So you don't have any open positions now, but tomorrow you might have an open position, you know what I mean? So like, we should be out there being proactive and not just reactive, is where I'm coming from. So, thank you.
Okay, community calendar.
Well, we had a successful July 4th holiday. Everything went off on the designated date, no rain dates were needed. I think the next one is going to be our next event is going to be, I believe, 17th.
August 15th,
August 15th, we have the beachcomb run.
I'm sorry?
August
August
15th, we have the
That's the
beachcomb
beachcomb
run. They
where
might
we're gonna
shut
be
down
closing,
Wall Street.
The Wall Street, because it's going to be lining all the food trucks up. So for a period of time, and they're going to make it more of a festive, people be able to park and walk about.
So is that a first, closing Wall Street?
It's a first.
Yeah. So that's gonna be,
It's cool.
They'll make it more festive, more of a fair, they're gonna close it for a few hours.
but that's a pretty big step forward from an issue. So parking will be Stop and Shop, St. George's, or,
Right.
okay.
The old Ray's train station, the
My
new
driveway.
train station.
Tom's driveway.
Probably a lot more people at Stop and Shop, I guess.
We're actually working on a crosswalk right by that, where the Mexican restaurant is there, you know, down the road.
Okay. So it's a night event, what's
Yes.
until 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, something like that?
Something like that.
So, Chief, is that something we would, I mean, I appreciate, you know, any event that has a lot of crowd, you know, use staff or accordingly or borrow officers as needed, but, you know, I would, that certainly sounds like, I haven't been to a beachcomber for quite a while, but.
Generally, they have them, they kind of, people on Wall Street somewhat get forgotten, unless you know what your favorite shop is. So the suggestion was made to go on that, why don't we just close the street? And she says, that's great, then we can move all our CanG trucks there, get people a reason to go up there besides the shops. So seeing it's a town road, I don't have to get a DOT permit. And I'm able to do it.
And the date is 1 week after our August meeting, so we'll know more the next time we're together.
Yeah.
Are you having an August meeting?
We're looking at, I'm out of town.
And I am out of town.
So it's to be decided. I think we should have that discussion in terms of what's on the agenda.
Where are you going?
I'm going to meet my granddaughter.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to Ireland.
Get a tweet jacket.
But and I talk, we'll look at the agenda and we will decide early on depending on what's in the agenda. Obviously, the chief's got a backup. I have a superb backup. So we can see about whether or not we need to have an August meeting. There have been some years because of both the vacation challenges, and it's always nice to have, you know, keep people be able to get some time off. I don't know, I'm talking about talking about the chief and Captain Harkins and some of the other guys. So let us see what the agenda looks like, and if we need to have one, you know, we'll have it.
Yeah, and this, particularly after, once the fireworks is over, I have a lot of people using their time. Right now, Polly and I are the Maytag repair people on that side of the building, it's just us.
It's a good
Doug's.
point.
So we're trying to get people to use their time, use their comp time, get that over with, and I know Doug will be back for August. So,
Okay.
I could add a little bit to that, I talked to Jeremy today.
Oh, how's he doing?
Feels like he's back in school. He said his roommate is chief of somewhere outside Raleigh, North Carolina, one of those cities in the what they call it?
Triad,
Yeah.
not the Triad, that's the Chinese gang.
Yeah, so
Research
he's,
triangle.
Research.
he's overwhelmed, but it's a good overwhelmed. He's met some great people so far, and he's excited to continue, and
How many in a class approximately, or just,
285,
whoa,
probably 10% foreign countries, governments.
okay.
You know,
It's
it's very competitive. They do walk people out in the first few weeks.
Okay. Any chance we'll lose him to Dubai when he finishes?
Listen, the FBI tried to grab him twice. And I asked them, please stop that. No, he's pretty dedicated to town of Madison, and
of course, he may come back with a
It's a
North
great
Carolina
opportunity.
accent.
he's gonna come back liking sweet tea.
Well,
Oh, God, no.
no, but we said that's, you know, and I know you just don't sign up for a position there, so I think it's, you know, it's an absolute key part of leadership training, and delighted we've got somebody that practice. Okay. Anything else? Regional Shared Services Report. Let me just mention something here. A couple of my fellow commissioners have you know, raised this, and we've talked about it periodically, a little bit of an informal way. And what I'd like to do is, we've put together from earlier efforts a significant amount of analytical and background information about how shared or regional shared services might be explored. Not approved, explored is the key word. And what I'd like to do, since we've got some newer commission members, and Tom and I went through this, probably a little stale for us. What I'd like to do is put together a little bit of a binder paper, share it with fellow commissioners, have an open discussion, you know, at a future meeting, either August or September, and talk about, you know, whether we've reached the point where we should explore this again, or revisit this. The sense I have is the first selectman is generally in favor of it. The town manager from Clinton, who unfortunately just left, was generally in favor of it. You know, I think there's some things that have occurred where some of the other first responders might be more receptive to participating in this. Anyway, it'd be helpful for us to have kind of a set aside, maybe 15 or 20 minutes at a future meeting, and have us weigh in on it, make sure we understand it. Obviously, you get the chief's comfort level and reaction to it, and if it still makes sense, then put together a plan to link into other key stakeholders. Obviously, you know, the first selectman and the board of selectmen are critical elements to any sort of regional discussion. The chief and his counterpart in any community would be, you know, critical participants in it. But anyway, after having this be dormant on the shelf for 4 years, the financials still, to me, make eminent sense, but we'd examine that. The service elements still seem to be absolutely at a high caliber to maintain, but we can talk about that. But at least put together, if we were to explore this, how might we do it? Who else, and it certainly may not be the police commission, but who else in kind of a department, elected, appointed position should be on some task force to look at this. Anyway, I will, you know, I've got the file, and I'll get Holly's help and put together a little summary report and, you know, put it on an agenda, and, you know, would absolutely welcome a re-examination of it from all parties.
They have they put them out, sir, on SCROG, which is Capital Region of Governments, South Central Region of Governments. They put out incentives all the time for the discussions of regionalization, not just landfills or school districts, but all things. It might be worthwhile, maybe we should sponsor one, invite the communities around us to have a very candid, some refreshments, just have an open discussion, and see where that takes it, to maybe the next, you know, where you have people say, hey, we're really interested, now you do the timeline, you have the meetings, and you move it along.
Chief, that's exactly the kind of thing that might come out of the discussion. I mean, it's an idea that says, you know what? Yeah, that's a first step. It's informal. It's have a cup of coffee or have a game.
I talked to Vinnie today, actually, at a lunch with him, and we talked about his new town manager. She said she's great. She's aggressively is how we could, you know, capitalize on what other assets are within our neighbors, and, you know, so, and I know that Peggy, we've talked about this last week, by regionalization of the dispatch center.
Well, it just, you know, we're doing so many things parallel with the technology, and we're looking at expensive investments, and the idea to connect with some other communities and say the investments can be shared, and by the way, the revenue and the support from the state continues to be significant. I mean, and it's dollars coming from a lockbox exclusively for this kind of discussion. So anyway, I won't preempt any discussion, but Chief, that's it's helpful, I'm glad to learn they do have a new town manager there, but we'll see what happens. Okay, correspondence, any other?
Well, we talked about the two.
That's what I said.
Other than that, people that, I answered phone calls and I had, like I said, a lot of contact with folks out there one-on-one.
I think we covered the current issues, new business, liaison with the state, anything?
You know, I met with the chief in New Haven. I also met with the gentleman from corrections, and I sat with the commissioner of state police. And then we were also all together at a meeting for racial profiling 2 weeks ago. All have similar issues, you know.
Okay, good. Commissioner comments? Tom?
Said by piece.
Ian?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm
Michael?
all right, thank you.
Nothing's tonight, thank you.
I think we covered it well. Well, and I'll immediately contradict myself by saying, look, we are heading in to the absolute busy time. I mean, once in a while, it's easy to forget we are a beach community and people love to go to the beach. So Chief, I know particularly the next, 8 to 10 weeks or so, there's gonna be a demand on you and your team there and your officers. So we appreciate that, and I think that, the data statistics that you showed us tonight is also reflective of how you do impact this very, very active beach community. So thank you, and appreciate your comments regarding that. So, our motion to adjourn the meeting.
Yes?
All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Stand adjourned.
No executive session.
No executive session.
Okay.
I need the end of July through the 10th of,
Okay, what was that date from?
We were super on
That's
your own.
sponsored by
We're actually
Post.
going over,
Chris and I are going over it. and,
I
I got your
saw it on
message.
Facebook.
How long would it usually go for some
And
resort at the word
I
of
took
carnival?
a
I do 5, but I do have 3 to 5, 2 hours. She doesn't want me more than that, I can
No.
imagine.
Okay, I started following the state police on
That's
Facebook.
really
fine.
3 to
and then
4.
we're meeting.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if she was gonna
No.
go with me if I only did 2 hours.
And I couldn't scan QR code, it's on my phone.
You could do an hour.
And there was no
Okay.
other contact information or website or anything.
Except you
What am I
want
supposed
to
to?
broke around with her.
I guess I could've done
You
it.
might-
Yeah.
I'm just making it up, you might say, wait, I'd like to do it one night.
I
You know,
see.
exactly.
Okay.
Not late, you know,
You
but
know,
you say, dinner time, I don't, you know.
Yes,
Yes, yeah, perfect, yeah.
I'll call.
Good night, everybody, take care, thank you, Chief.
Good
Bye.
Should somebody shut that off?
Yes.
yeah, if you're in Belfast.
Oh, and the other day, I'm speaking of the connector, I'm going to